All right, so very, very beautiful feature. And, every time I see people riding bikes or, power bikes and all that, it always reminds me of my first attempt at trying to ride a bike. And it was not a funny one because I don't know why I forgot that to accelerate was on the handle. So I just increased it and I bumped into a pawpaw tree. And after that experience, I never climbed the bike again. Well, talking about sports, and sports is our focus on today's edition of Your Weekend. And I have a very interesting guest. He's not new on Your Weekend. We have seen him on when we started earlier. On the show, we had a sports segment where we always talked about sports, and he's one of our analysts, and he is Sule Unekwuojo. Welcome to the show once again.
It's
Yes,
it's a pleasure. It's
yes,
like it's homecoming, and
yeah,
it's always interesting.
yes. And the topic we are talking about today is sports betting. You know, the Nigerian scene. Sports betting in Nigeria has somehow been is now part of Nigeria's sports,
Yeah,
sports world. And, it's not just entertainment, but does it come with its risks too? I'm sure it comes with its risks. Because
like
like betting is now, you're
yeah,
not
like like
sure.
like every habit, it
Yeah.
has its other sides. The
Yeah.
good side, not so good, and
Mm.
of course the very very ugly side.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's catching on very very fast,
Yeah.
very fast. It's in fact not just catching again. It's all over the town, as remote as some of the villages you can think of are.
Mm-hmm.
You still have betting centers.
Yeah.
I mean that's how strong it is already.
Yeah, because my first question was going to be, why do you think sports betting has become so popular in Nigeria, especially amongst the young people?
Poverty. That's the truth. That's the
Yeah,
truth.
being
They,
able
they,
to make a
they'll,
quick.
they'll give you other reasons, but it's poverty.
Okay.
But now, the next question I'll ask myself, I'm going to have to stop as well. Betting is,
Mm.
does it really,
Solve the
leads to
problem.
riches or solve the problem of poverty? So that's the next question. But most times, before they jump into it, before people jump into it, they don't ask such questions. And
Mm.
like every other habit that catches on, like a small fire, you know they don't really weigh the good and the bad side. So people just, maybe a friend is doing it, and in the last week, or I mean after the games, made some good money.
Mm-hmm.
So he tells you, and the next thing is, why not, let me try. Maybe from the loot or the windfall he got,
Yeah.
he borrows you 100 naira. You understand? So you say, okay, I'm not losing anything after all. So
Mm-hmm.
you go into it, and you try your luck. And maybe if God wants to help you, I don't know, it depends on how you look at it now. If God wants to help you, you might lose out.
Yeah.
So it takes you away. Well, you don't say, okay, just like you talked about the bike, and since then you never got back to trying it. Yeah, so if you are hit at that very beginning with
Mm-hmm.
such a slap, and it's like a rude shock, you say, no, it's not for me. So you could really say that, look, I'm out, I'm not doing it again. But again, if fortunately the 100 gets to bring you as much as, that's 100 naira gives you as much as, let's say, 100,000.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, how will you ever stop?
True, true, true. Yeah. So, how has sports betting changed the way people watch and follow sports in Nigeria?
Yeah, there's another good side to it. Even that good side,
Mm-hmm.
as I talk, you notice that it has some negatives too.
Mm-hmm.
The other good side is the level of excitement, you know, tends to boil over.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, if I bet on a club, and that club is going to win, and maybe as the game wears on, the club is doing well. It's already winning 1 goal, 2 goals, 3 goals, like that. I mean, so the excitement level is definitely going to grow. And
Yeah.
those of you in that group that has bet that, look, this team is going to win, you can imagine the level of excitement boiling in you. So things will flow. I mean, because you're already expecting so much to come in.
Mm-hmm.
If you are in a viewing center, for instance, where there's enough pepper soup and all that, of course you might even start drinking ahead of the because you know what's going to
You
come
know
in.
what's
So
going to
the
come
excitement
in.
level definitely boils over. So
Yeah.
again, it improves viewership. You know, of
Mm,
course, the popularity of such sports will grow. That's the good side.
okay.
Now, there's still the other side of even these emotions.
Mm,
Okay, you built up emotions, you spent some money to bet, and hopefully you are now saying that this team, this my team, is going to win. And maybe out of nowhere,
they now lose.
a so-called underdog comes from nowhere and spikes
Yeah.
them, and then they lose. In fact, as they are losing, you are going down. As you
Yeah.
are losing, your emotions keep going down.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it can take you to any level.
Yeah.
So those are equally the two sides. So where do you want to be in this
True.
stage,
True.
right?
And the thing is that people now get addicted to this kind of thing
That's
because they
that's in the
can't,
most. That's the
because they are
most.
eager to make sure they win, they win, they win. Then when they now win, instead of them to just take the winnings and just rest or maybe invest in something productive, no, they'll still go back tomorrow.
You know, that's another thing that scares everybody from going into it. Just like I said before, if 100 naira can bring as much as 100,000, so why not?
Mm,
So if such winning, if you're not so lucky, if you're not so lucky, you discover that the first time you try, you win something. The chances are that yes, if you bet with maybe 100 naira and you got as much as 100,000, the next time you might want to bet with as much as even 1,000 naira.
okay, thousand.
Nothing is wrong with that,
Mm-hmm.
because just 100 gave you as much as, so maybe that 1,000 can give you as much as 1,000,000 naira. So that's the way it starts.
Yeah.
And so before you know, you start indulging, you
Mm-hmm.
get addicted,
Yeah.
and then you get swept away. Again, it can even lead to some much of indolence, because I mean, it's just sitting there in the comfort of my house or in a betting center. I could just press some buttons and make this much. Why should I work so hard?
True.
So it's a real challenge, especially for the young ones who are not capable of thinking so much.
Yeah.
you know
Yeah.
no matter how much of guidance you give, if so little can bring in so much, and for doing so little, I mean, a lot of persons out there will want to do it.
Okay. I know you have mentioned, in the course of your um, discussion, you have mentioned some of the risks that, young people should be aware of. Are there any other ones?
No, very well. In fact, the most challenging one, I think, is even the health one.
Okay.
Yeah, because you invest so much of money.
Mm-hmm.
you know if, for instance, you borrow, you borrow from maybe a bank because you are
A
so
loan
sure
shark.
of this. You are see, these things are, it's a technical thing that people take time to even learn.
Yeah.
You are so sure, you are so good in playing this stuff that
Mm,
you know you are about, you can predict who is going to score,
yeah.
the team that's going to score first, the person who is likely to score,
Mm.
all those little
Mm-hmm,
details. So
yeah.
if you're now so good at doing this,
Yeah.
you can imagine, and maybe the first few times that you tried, heavy wins.
Yeah.
So there's nothing anybody can tell you. Your emotion will go into it.
True.
God help you if you are, for instance, hypertensive,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, if it's football or any game, for instance, I mean, a game can be decided by just one stupid reason or the other, and on that day you've invested so much money, so much of your emotions, and everything goes bad, and your team is not winning. You might not make it out of that place. We've seen a lot of persons collapsing at viewing centers.
Wow.
Between that viewing center and maybe the next health center, they are gone, because this emotion that goes with it is deep. There's even the side of shame.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the viewing center where you are, to even lift yourself up and walk home is a problem, because the opposition team is already hitting you. Banters always,
Yeah,
some
yeah.
banters can be so deep,
Yeah.
and it could hit you in the
Quite
wrong,
emotional.
yeah, and
Because
then
I remember
you
one
you
Sunday
you
morning I was going to church. I just saw some people, they were as early as
with
like
so much
6:30,
passion.
they're already
Yes,
talking about the
yes.
match that took place the night before. I'm like,
You see fights breaking out, and people using bottles on themselves like that.
yeah,
Some
it's
persons
quite
have, some
crazy.
students, for instance, have taken monies given to them by their parents,
Mm.
maybe for school fees and all
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
and sneaked into a betting center and then invested it there, and that's all. It never came back, and they couldn't come back home. So you can imagine what it's going to do to a little lad like that.
Okay. So, what role can the government or betting companies play in promoting responsible betting?
Well, they can do so much, but again, how far does it go in affecting the
The
choice
person,
of
yeah.
anybody? Because highest they'll say they'll restrict the age. See,
Okay.
persons below age 18, you cannot bet.
Mm-hmm.
But how effective is that? How do you even check who is under 18 and who is still going to bet? You understand? So there are so many things the law can do. Sometimes, if you are directly involved in a particular event, the law restricts you from actually betting. And if
Okay.
you are caught, the consequences could be very, very serious. Beyond that, I think it's still down to parents and even individuals to control yourself, because like they say, so too much of everything is bad. But that's as much as the law can work. Apart from that, it is down to you as a person to control yourself. It has a very good side, even as in it brings in a lot of money into sports.
Yeah.
Sports. I mean, you see adverts running
Yeah.
to sustain some of these programs that we see on TV.
Yeah.
It is their money, it's the betting money that they bring in there. So it has its positives, but if you ask me, the negatives are very, very,
Outweigh
very
the
high. Very,
positive.
very, especially if you don't have control of yourselves.
Okay. Okay. So, do you think sports betting is more of a benefit or a problem for Nigerian society, and why?
Whoosh. For a poverty-stricken society like ours, a lot of people will argue that it's still better, especially if the individual involved is matured, and then he can control his excesses. Yeah, because if a 1,000 naira can bring in a million naira, it's difficult to stop such persons from doing it. Then even we've not talked of even the religious side. I think some of the religions frown at it. Again, it's because of the excesses. Because if you cannot control it, please don't go into it. I've seen somebody selling off a whole house,
Wow.
a whole mansion to bet. Why will you blame him? He got no money in the first place. The money that he used in building the same house was got from betting. So it's easy. They always believe that I can cash in this one, or in the next one, in the next one, like that. So sometimes you just keep believing that until you go under completely.
Wow.
And nothing can bring you up. So maybe moderation.
Okay. So, what advice would you give? I know you just mentioned moderation is good. So, what other advice would you give?
I would just generally say that apart from religious constraints that is placed on you, you know yourself. If you're too emotional and you don't have firm control of yourself, of your mind, because you see, these games seem so easy to predict. But most times, because it's sports, there's the element of surprise that comes with every game. A team at the top there today goes to play the team at the bottom and loses. How do you explain that?
True.
You understand? So then the most favorite striker on the day turns to nothing. It's as if he's a passenger. You don't even see him in the entire game. And you have bet that he's going to score 4 goals or 3 goals or even 1 goal, and he gives nothing. You're going to lose money. So if you don't have control of your emotions, please don't go into it.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And sharing your view on betting, and hopefully someone watching has yes, exactly, so that they don't fall into something that they can come back from. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And your weekend continues with this feature, and it's the evolution of Nigerian women in sports. Enjoy.